Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and welcome back to Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, where, what is this? It's Riku! Sora's doting boyfriend in an on-again, off-again relationship with him. And before any of you start to come after me, yes, these two are destined to be lovers. They were always destined to be lovers ever since they shared that palpable fruit. If you suggest otherwise, I will kill you, cut your balls off, and or ovaries, and shove them down your esophagus. So there, Sora and Riku, OTP, they're forever as lovers. But it seems that Riku is, well, a little bit, angry. And as the ominous music is playing, seems that Riku, ain't quite right, and, he also remembers Naminé. But how does he remember her, when he ain't got no memories? Could it be Castle's Oblivions? You know, doing some funky la-di-do-da-di with his mind? Well, isn't this but a pickle? Yeah, if you couldn't tell, this was, basically... Let's just say that Riku was in league with Vexen, Larxene, and Marluxia, and, well, he ain't quite what he appears to be. And, well, basically he's just here to antagonize Sora, as is per the organization's plan, to turn him against... Actually, I'm not quite sure. Again, there might have been a cutscene in the previous part that did explain this, or the fact that I'm completely scatterbrained right now, but... yeah... It's either just a test for the real Sora to encourage memories of Naminé to make him completely subservient, as is what seems to be happening to Riku here, since both of them are fighting over Naminé like they apparently did during their childhood. Which I suppose if that was the case... well... considering where the story's going to be going from here, that is kind of effective. Anyway, battles with Riku. Dear God, watch out, because Riku will kick your ass 6 ways from Sunday. But, in the earlier phases, he's not too bad. I'm pretty sure at the level you're currently at now, you should be able to handle him, but... oh, dear God, Riku can get really fucking nasty. He does have a pretty good enemy card, though, which is something that I will get into as we, get on with things, but... yeah, thank you, Mushu. Whittling down his health. But anyway, in terms of any sort of strategy, well, I mean, beyond the infinite glory that is Omni-Slash, basically just keep a bunch of Zero cards on hand and, well, just try and be swift about it, because one thing Riku is in a lot of his boss fights is swift, quick, and he will, well, basically make Sora's little ass very, very sore with his, sword. Wow, that was a bit racier than I intended it to be, but... no matter what, we should just keep at it. I'm not really sure what to say in terms of anything that would be considered legitimate strategy beyond just being swift and keeping your Zero cards out. There are certain boss fights coming up that I will have a fair few things to say about in terms of how they operate. Because some bosses do have specific abilities and, you know, quirks about them that do make some of their boss fights intriguing. Like, the next one coming up has random card values. One a little bit later is very finicky, except for the gimmick card, which really makes that boss fight a major cinch. And, well, as for the final world that we'll be entering today, I'll save my tangents for later. One thing I will say, though, is that, the Riku battles can either be some of the most frustrating ones, or some of the most fun, depending on how you play your cards right. And yes, Aero Magic. Wind, which I'm honestly kind of surprised isn't used for more offensive capabilities. Like, I mean, in the Kingdom Hearts series, typically, Wind has usually been used for, defensive stuff, which, okay, makes sense, I guess, but, I don't know. Again, maybe it's my Ratchet and Clank experience talking here, but I was kind of hoping for, like, a spell where you could, you know, just use, use 3 arrow cards and, like, have a massive tornado that screws... well, actually, that is an ability in this game, as I just remembered. Well, it's either hit this or Rechain of Memories. Whatever, I'm rambling at this point. Riku has vanished, and Sora is just gonna get angrier and angrier. I don't know, like, I mean, this is stuff that I do genuinely like, because you don't see this in future Kingdom Hearts games. Like, I mean, there are times when he does get sad or has, like, a bit of an outburst, but it never really sticks consistently from scene to scene. Again, at the risk of spoiling something, I guess the final world from Kingdom Hearts 3, where, you know, everybody was having their final battle, they all died, and Sora just sort of broke down in despair, only to then kind of go basically back to the way he was in the final world, which is, well, in the context of Kingdom Hearts 3, which is meant to be like this sort of purgatory-ish cloud place, which apparently Tetsuya Nomura stated is his favourite world, if that's to be believed, so take that for what you will. But anyway, in Chain of Memories, I particularly like Sora's anger here because it sticks, you know, it's carried from scene to scene, and you can see it gradually building up and him getting progressively angrier at his situations, and, well, I mean, you can even see here that he's being a bit cavalier about his friendship with Donald and Goofy, who are desperately trying to keep his head on straight by, you know, staying positive, as you'd expect of the Disney characters, but, you know, eventually it comes to a point where Sora ain't having none of that shit. That's right, Jiminy Jillikers, they might have forgotten, but then you'll make up, finally realise your love for one another, and go on to have many fanfiction-y babies through adoption, or very disturbing other methods that will not be mentioned in this wholesome game. I don't know. Like, I mean, if there is anything I can say to Chain of Memories' benefit is that, again, the story and characters are handled extremely well. The only weak aspect, as I have mentioned many times beforehand, would probably be the organization betrayal plots, which can get a little bit convoluted unless, of course, you know who's with who. And then again, I guess also in the context of Chain of Memories in and of itself, you know, without Kingdom Hearts 2 or 358 over 2 days to really give it context, you might say that none of this ever becomes clear until later, but I don't know, to me that's kind of the sign of what any sort of game should do. Like, I mean, with Axel's motivations, you don't know whose side he's really on, other than himself. Well, as far as we know at this point. And at the same time, if Axel was there to give you an indication as to what the rest of the organization was like, you know, good build-up for Kingdom Hearts 2. The stuff with Zexion and Lexius, which we'll be seeing next time, does also give you an indication on some of the other facets of the organization in terms of power and intellect, and of course, you know, with Marluxia, Luxine, and Vexen, who, you know, they all give you a bit of an implication as to what they're like or what the rest of the organization could really reflect. And Chain of Memories does a decent job of giving you a taste of it while hyping you up for Kingdom Hearts 2 good and proper, which, while their motives might be a little bit contradictory and aggravating to some people, I don't mind it. This isn't Neverland, this isn't the land of racially charged Indian people, or very dated, well, 1900s writing that hasn't really aged the best, I'll say that much. Oh my god, it's Link from The Legend of Mario Brothers, whatever. All the bloody Shining Force fairies that give you healing, which I suppose is fair enough, because Tinkerbell also is a spell that heals you. But yeah, in case you haven't cracked onto it yet, this is Neverland. Well, not necessarily Neverland, we don't actually get there until Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, and even then, that was a very disappointing level, which I swear was only in the game because they wanted to reuse the assets from the Jungle Book, which was initially going to be in Birth by Sleep, but it was cut because... Actually, I don't really know. But anyway, we're on Captain Hook's ship, as, well, basically we were in Kingdom Hearts 1. You know, a bunch of pirate enemies to fit the theme, and we also have these other sorts of summoner enemies, which are the things with the horns on their nose. I never really liked these enemies. I don't know if it's just prejudice, but I just wanted to beat them up, because I summon enemies when they go... I'm feeling very reactionary today. I do apologise for how random I feel at the moment. But I mean, regardless of such, it's not too bad of a level, just... I don't know, just nothing too interesting. I suppose if I could go into whether or not I've seen this Disney movie of the week, you're probably going to be thinking that I haven't, but in fact, yes I have. Peter Pan, the 1950s, I think was the movie that was meant to mark the end of the golden age of Disney when, you know, during the 50s and such. I have seen this. I used to have this on videotapes and all that stuff all the time when I was a kid. I watched it fairly frequently, and, well, I haven't seen it recently, so I don't really know what my opinions on it would be now. I thought it was okay. The only parts of the movie I really seem to remember is the questionably racist Indian people and Wendy telling one of the guys to fuck off for having to get firewood or some shit, and then for some reason Smee shaving a seagull for some reason. I don't really remember much about it. Although actually there was one Peter Pan movie that I do actually have kind of vivid memories of, and I don't know if anybody else remembers this, but wasn't there like a Peter Pan movie like set in the Second World War with like Wendy's daughter going to Neverland and having an adventure and basically getting, I don't know. That's just one I also have a memory of. Probably the first and only direct-to-video Disney movie I have any memories of. It's weird, man. Anyway, neither of those I've really necessarily seen since I was a kid, and kind of judging, you know, Peter's personality in Kingdom Hearts, he's kind of a shit. Like, I mean, I really could not give any less of a fuck about Peter Pan Fairy Boy, which is a result of J.M. Barrie. I think something he based on his younger brother who drowned in like a lake or something. I think, if I'm trying to remember the story right of what he based the inspiration of. Basically, the whole concept of Neverland being where kids never grow up was kind of, I guess, his way of dealing with his brother's death. I gotta say though, like, I mean, it is very interesting to see what Neverland actually is, because, like, I mean, considering, you know, the term Lost Boys and the, well, not the 1980s movie The Lost Boys, the conceptual Lost Boys from the story, that is, kind of creepy, because they're infants taken to another world where they will never grow up and never know their true family, which has some, serious horror potential in there. In fact, I'm certain that in the years since, because keep in mind, this stuff has been around for over 100 years at this point, there's probably been some sort of horror variant or, you know, inspiration tale based on it, I guess, you know, somewhere down the line. Actually, I actually did hear an interesting theory, actually, that the part of the reason why Captain Hook is the antagonist of the series is because, well, he was one of the children who escaped and was able to grow up into adulthood, which Peter Pan quite obviously does not want. I don't know, it makes it a bit of a fascinating twist on the good versus evil thing. Well, I mean, then again, Captain Hook is also meant to be a pirate, so that's morally grey on all sides. That's something I never thought I'd be saying about Pan of Peter, Peter of Pan, who no doubt inspired many people. Anyway, Captain Hook. One of the more challenging boss fights due to the fact that he has cards that can be of random value when he unleashes his enemy card on you. But that being said though, he does have one of the more interesting enemy cards of the game where, again, once you defeat him, you will get access to... Fuck, what was it called again? It was like Second Chance. Where again, you could have your ass completely ripped to shreds, but you will still have a little bit of health remaining, so... Use it wisely, heal up, and, well, it can save your bacon on many occasions until you get up to a couple of other enemy encounters. To go a little bit deeper into enemy cards, one which I think I did mention before but didn't really give a lot of attention to was also Spooky Boogie's card, which gives you cellular regeneration, basically allowing you to heal up to 10 times, so it regains a little bit of health without having to use a leaf card. Again, it's definitely something that I advise you use. In tandem with Second Chance, because I mean you can only use one enemy card per battle, so use it wisely if you're going to use it at all. But apart from that, you should be okay. There are a couple of other useful enemy cards that we'll be getting later, but I'll point them out as such. I suppose the only other real important one to mention would be Jafar's card, which I believe... I'm trying to remember actually. I don't really use it that often, but I believe it also lessens the value of the enemy's cards, so that way you can win power struggles easier unless they have a 0 card on hand. But again, you shouldn't have that many problems. Unless, of course, you let Captain Hook kick your ass like that, because, as you can see with his presence, he can, well, fuck your shit up. And with his sword slashes, he will go to town on you. Yeah, and this guy had trouble against a Pixie Boy. Tough shit. Gotta say, though, I really do love the artistic interpretation of this level in the GBA version compared to Rechain Memories, which just uses... the Kingdom Hearts 1 arena. I mean, here you have, you know, the ship actually sailing on the ocean, although it looks like it's, well, about to capsize more often than not. But again, I like it, man. Plus, you get a nice shot of the moonlight in there. It's nice. Very, very ambient. Well, again, in terms of other cards, in terms of, you know, Genie, Cloud, and Dumbo, I don't find Dumbo's card to be quite as useful, but I mean, in terms of getting bit of splash, well, literal splash damage on enemies, I do enjoy it. But again, Cloud, you are my husbando. I love you. Let's have marvelous children in the realms of fanfiction. I don't know why I said that. But anyway, we've killed Captain Hook once and for all. He can now rest easy from his fears about having a crocodile eat his other hand. We can give command over to Smee, who will rule firmly but wisely, and the Pan of Peter will go on to never grow up, or return to grow up to be Robin Williams in that one movie, because Peter will finally become a pirate in, like, banking and business or some shit. I'm trying to remember if I've seen that version of, like, I think it was just called Hook, or if it was just, something I just saw in a haze of alcohol. I don't really remember, man. Then again, we have our tangential link to memories, because, Wendy, what if you forget about everything? Peter, I have seen some absolutely wacky shit that I will never forget, unless, of course, I become a drug-addicted grandmother. Believe me, you dude, I will always forget about you. Da-no. Well, I mean, then again, if my malicious fan theory was to be true, then I'm pretty sure Peter would never let Wendy go, and, well, she'd be stuck there forever. Then again, it could make for a potentially interesting horror game, like, kind of like in an American McGee's Alice kind of way, like, you know, recontextualizing... Well, I mean, I say recontextualizing Alice in Wonderland to be more fucked up, but I guess it was kind of already fucked up by its source material. It's just that Disney has kind of sanitized the rough edges over the years, so what do I know, really? And now Sora gets a little bit sloppy. But again, it's part of the reason why I do genuinely like the dude. Like, I mean, it really is making full range of his emotions here. It's not just happy-go-lucky ball of sunshine. He can be, you know, he can be heartfelt, he can be angry, he can be completely fucking dejected, and it just makes Sora a very realized character, which is something that he kind of lost a little bit after Kingdom Hearts 2. I don't know. Like, I mean, Kingdom Hearts 3 was sort of on the right track. The only time I think he really became insufferable was really in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, really. I don't know. It's really just... It's a bit of an inconsistency, and I'm not really sure if it's just more of a trait of Japanese writing to keep the characters consistent within their symbolic traits, because I think the Japanese are a little bit more receptive to that sort of thing than we are in the West, who kind of go a little bit all over the shop ourselves. But, I don't know. It's a bizarre thing, but now they are truly returning to London, which, you know, sure won't cause anything. Especially in that time period when they go, oh, look over there, Dodger. Look at a little bit of a rowdy little fly going up there. What are you telling me, love? I have no idea why I said that either. I'm not very funny this session. I'm sad now. But alas, Tinkerbell has decided to join us as our Navi, companion. And that's kind of weird, actually, because, I mean, something that I think they'll kind of bring up with Mushu in Kingdom Hearts 2 is that these guys do have memories of the adventures they had with Sora. So, what happens to the summon gems after the end of the game? Do they give them back? Do they lose them? Or... Yeah, that's, it's a bit of a curiosity, because, I mean, Mushu will remember Sora from Kingdom Hearts 1, since he did get him as a summon there, so it's, I don't know, dude, that's weird. Yeah, whatever, we've spent too much time on this. After beating up some treasure chests and getting health balls, onwards to new adventure. Oh, Riku, you're back once again. I really do actually love one of these lines coming up. Not this one. Yeah, Sora, what makes you think I need your love deep down? Yeah, and this is also the point of the game, or point of the series actually, I say, where Sora begins to slowly forget about Kairi, until suddenly remembering her in Kingdom Hearts 3 because they tried to give her more relevance, which didn't exactly pan out the best. Much to my anger, because Kingdom Hearts had the perfect opportunity to do something with Kairi, but didn't. Yes, what about the rest of our friends? You know, Titus, Stephanie, Waker. Yeah, something they actually don't bring up anymore is that, you know, some of the, you know, Titus, Stephanie? Selfie? God, I don't remember. And, Waker, Malaka, Yeah, they used to be friends with Sora and Riku, but they seem to have completely disappeared from the series up to this point. So, something I'll bring up in the next part when we actually do get to see them, but... Well, not in the next part, but, you know, in the parts to come, but... Yeah, they, kind of lost relevance. Well, Final Fantasy in general did lose relevance with Kingdom Hearts, but... That's a story for another day, and something that I think I did bring up a lot earlier. So yeah, as we can see, the castle has warped Riku's brain, apparently, to protect Namine. You know, as while other images of Namine, as we've seen before, might give a different implication, if I had my way, I'd rend them all ripped and torn, or that Sox dies. That wasn't what I was trying to say. But if I had my way, well, this would have been a very, 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 to the power of infinity, creepy story. The magic of the strike raid, reflect raid. Yeah, this is around about the point where Riku's battles start to get a little bit more intense. And Cloud will only get you so far. Like I said, keep Zero cards on hand, you should be okay. Well, that and also investing in a lot of card points, because, as someone who was recording a little something special for the end of the game, back in the day on my first save file, because all my other save files were taken up with the Riku scenario, yeah, when you don't invest in card points, you have a very limited stock of cards, which can leave you quite, fudge-knockered. I'll just put it lightly. But yeah, a lot of the raid abilities are actually one of the more useful ones in the game. Well, except against Marluxia, but that's because he's resistant to some of the critical sorts of damage against it. But, yeah, most other enemies, they're actually pretty sweet. I suppose it is also as a result of you also getting a little bit more pimped out if you're willing to grind a little bit more, which can make some of these battles a little bit easier. But at the same time, though, I mean, if you're reliable with the game's card system, you should be pretty okay as you're going through it. But, you know, when I say Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories can be very grind-heavy, I mainly mean in terms of the first-time player, because if you want to have a comfortable time clearing this the first time through, I do recommend grinding so you can get larger card points, so you can, you know, stock up on more stuff, and then put it to your own creative mind to just get some cooler stuff, dudes. Oh, Riku, stop being such a bad boy. Come back to the light. We need to go help Namine. Together. Because we are the Destiny Island Trio? I think that's what they're called. That is so like you, always trying to worm your way into my heart. Whoa. Sora's getting embarrassed about his crush. This really is. Like, I mean, you know, you might be thinking I'm jesting when I say that Sora is Riku's one true love, but I mean, lines like that, you know, kind of get the implication. That's just part of the reason why they try and force him with Kairi, just kind of makes me angry, because he doesn't see the perfect lover in front of him. It's probably... I sincerely doubt that it's ever going to happen, but I mean, the subtext is there, they did share a Palpu fruit, and no matter how many romantic scenes of Sora and Kairi sitting against a sunset beach, Sora and Riku are meant to be together, I'm convinced. And now we get to one of the creepier aspects of the game, seeing all these adult organization members, both male and female, kind of get very creepily close to Namine. And I'm serious, man, like, the kid is very subservient towards these people's wills as well, which in and of itself brings together some creepy ideals once we learn a little bit more about who Namine is, which I'll say for a little bit later, but god damn, I feel incredibly fucking sorry for her. Yeah, in fact, that's... Well, you know what, I'll save it for when it becomes a little bit more plot relevant, but... And I know they honestly wouldn't do this just for the sake of... Well, actually, no, they could have done it, but I guess Kingdom Hearts is simultaneously the series that does the most predictable, yet unpredictable plot twist you'll ever see in the series, but let's just say, I mean, if I was handling the game's ending, keeping it relatively the same as it was, I would have made a slight change, but that's just me. But in any case, Riku is just being a shit. But one thing I will say is that one thing that I do love about Chain of Memories is that this is the game that did endear me a lot to Riku's character. Like, I mean, you're not going to see it here, and in fact you probably will see it by the time I get around to Kingdom Hearts Reverse Rebirth, but this was the redemption arc that Riku needed, and this really did develop his character in a way that, you know, not only made him more than just the older/edgy sort of rival character, but it made him a genuinely well-rounded and likable dude all around. In fact, even all throughout the series, Riku has been one of the more better developed characters, both in terms of small moments, like when he met Shiki in The World Ends With You, when he admitted that he wasn't comfortable talking to women, which again fuels my theory that he was meant to belong with Sora because he loves him very much. I don't know, they just do a nice job of balancing out his moments of him being, you know, badass and cool, but at the same time also making him very human, you know, showing him smiling and, you know, just being a well-rounded guy, really. Again, I mean, to me, Riku is a way of writing your darker and edgier characters the right way. You know, they have their moments of darkness, angst, and, you know, evil, badass, cool moments, but at the same time they also still have a bit of lighthearted reprieve with certain characters, which gives you the impression that they are a more well-rounded person, so, you know, it's all good in the hood. Wow, that's, asking all the important questions. Well, then again, I suppose I'd probably ask myself if I was able to not only just stand with normal gravity, Earth, in, you know, this place, but at the same time also wonder how I can breathe underwater suddenly. And again, this is just a result of the castle. Even though Ariel seems to be acting under the influence of her world, well, then again, I suppose she is part of Castle Oblivion's machinations, so that kind of does make sense. But yes, this is The Minute Mermaid. I have seen this movie, but I don't remember much of it. In fact, the only thing I really remember of it was just, I think, one or two scenes, really. I don't really know. Either way, I think this was also just the one Disney movie, which I think... I don't know, I think it did kind of stick the popular consensus of mermaids into everybody's conscience, you know, shell bras and just, well, some of the, I guess cutting out some of the more siren sort of aspects of it, because, you know, mermaids and sirens are kind of interchangeable in certain aspects. And now you might be wondering, dear Mr. Solidus-Skully, where are the dulcet tones of Under the Sea? Well, it's something that you won't hear, because I do not like it, and it makes me angry. Yeah. Also cutting out the battle music because, well... I will say this, I didn't mind Under the Sea before playing Kingdom Hearts, but after the first game, Chain of Memories, and most especially Kingdom Hearts 2, let's just say that I never want to have any finny fun ever again. And it pains me to say that because I am someone who does genuinely love underwater levels. In you know, actually both in video games and in real life. I mean, I'm Australian, I'm kind of required to love the ocean because, well, we're kind of surrounded by it. But, yeah, I just... It's a level that I do kind of enjoy for the enemy types and, you know, all sorts of ambient undersea life, but Under the Sea, you needed to pick a more ambient backing track, which is why, ladies and gentlemen, I introduced you to the soundtrack of Devil May Cry 2. You might not like the game, but the soundtrack is fucking excellent, dudes and dudettes, so buy it now. So yeah, we're gonna be having a bunch of ambience and basically Atlantica as it should have been. Also, those major fish enemies are a pain in the ass. Kill them quickly if you can. But apart from that, so yeah, no finny fun for us, and I am also going to be doing this similarly during Riku's Reverse Rebirth scenario, just for the sake of, well, saving my ears and sanity. Yeah, but again, like before, nothing really... in fact, I'd honestly say, compared to one of the other levels in the game, this is actually one of the most, like, straight-up Kingdom Hearts 1 rip-off levels in the entire game. I mean, it's basically... I think it's recounting the first half of the movie where Ariel steals the, trident. It's either she steals the trident or... No, she steals the trident because Kingdom Hearts 2 dealt with the whole other half of the Little Mermaid story, where she falls in love with Spider-Man. I sincerely doubt anybody's going to get what I'm referencing with that, but anyway, the point being is that Ariel is kind of a naive dumbass because you go up to a mysterious octopus lady who was quite obviously evil, someone who you know was cast out of displaced by your father, for good reason, mind you, and you want to give her the Staff of Ultimate Power. To be fair, you kind of deserve everything you get, but regardless of such, thanks to Sora and Donald and Goofy stepping in to be the good lads that they are, they protect Ariel from her own dumbassery until Kingdom Hearts 2, where they just kind of hang in the background and we play a bunch of musical games, because everyone should have a bit of finny fun. Except for the player, because fuck them. Oh, Donald, you punny little duckling that's saving up all his MP for Zeta Flare. By the way, if I could just make a bit of an off remark, Zeta Flare, Donald Duck, my respect for the character has now increased infinitely. Even if it was kind of retconned by time travel. What do I mean? Join us for Kingdom Hearts 3, which I'll review in... well, I mean, if I ever review it. Excuse me. I don't know. If I review it in about, like, 3 years or so. Who knows? But yeah, basically what Ursula is promising Ariel is to see other worlds, which I guess in the context of the movie was meant to mean, you know, the land. But considering that she was involved in Maleficent's little gang of evil Disney villains, could this imply, like, the other world specifically? I don't know, like, I mean, provided they were willing to bother giving Ariel legs in Kingdom Hearts 1, they could have potentially had her join up as a companion to Sora. I mean, if you really did want Kingdom Hearts to be an all-Disney kind of thing, you could have potentially had that as, like, a companion character. Yeah, but I suppose Disney probably doesn't want you to interfere with the movie's canon too much, as is kind of noticeable with how they're protective of some franchises. Not gonna name names, but one of them is of a certain popular franchise from 2013 where you couldn't escape it no matter how hard you tried, and they wasted a good bunch of Kingdom Hearts 3 with that little plot point, because why bother telling an interesting story with Larxene as one of the villains when you can recreate a song and dance number? Because that's totally what I play Kingdom Hearts for. But yeah, Ursula's boss fight can be a bit of a pain in the ass by proxy of her being very hard to reach, and, you know, the tentacles being a bit difficult. I'd say it's a little bit more difficult in Rechainer Memories because of the fact that the 3D plane kind of phases in and out where you can target and when you can hit when the hitbox goes from active to inactive. And most especially on Sora, well, most especially on Riku's actually, where unless of course you use the dueling system, you're kind of screwed. I don't know. In the original Chain of Memories though, you can get done pretty easily. Excuse me. Yeah, my throat's getting a little bit dry. I'm gonna get a bit of a drink of water after this. But yeah, Ursula, she has... well, she can fuck you up if her attacks get pretty meaty, but just keep on the ball and you should be okay, and she does actually have a pretty good enemy card. She halves magic damage if you use her card, so it is within your best interest to use it, but again, the sort of cards I really recommend for this battle is, well, Omni-Slash. Lots of Omni-Slash. It's useful for many situations. You can cook toast, you can, I don't know, write a letter to Congress, you can visit your grandparents, you can, I don't know, propose to your boyfriend or girlfriend, and they will instantly marry you. It's good. Especially in the, oh, Jesus Christ, that's a bit of a dangerous attack. Make sure you have a zero card for that, because that is freaky. Thank you, Ariel, that was very useful. Whee! Sonic Blade, making excellent use out of it. Again, I'd say this battle is probably a lot easier in the GBA version than it is in Rechainer Memories, but I think I'm repeating myself at this point. I suppose I might as well talk into a little bit about the voice acting, because while they didn't exactly get back everyone, which is quite noticeable with Dan Castellaneta in place of Robin Williams as Genie, aptly enough, they did actually get a lot of the characters back in for Kingdom Hearts, and I think also Kingdom Hearts 2 as well. Like, I mean, in Hercules World, you know, you had James Woods as Hades, and The Little Mermaid specifically here, you have Jodie Benson as Ariel, and Pat Carroll, who I believe was in her 80s when she voiced the character here. So yeah, Disney keeps a very nice contract on their character actors. So, well, I guess maybe it might be contractual if, depending on what it's stated, like if they have to come back for certain appearances or if they don't. I don't know. I guess maybe they do it on a movie basis, or maybe the original voice actors don't really do a match or have other professions. Kind of in a similar manner to Wizard of Oz, actually, where one of the where the woman who played the Wicked Witch of the West was like a... I think she was like a kindergarten teacher? I don't know, it's weird to see how these things work out, but... You know, whatever pays the bills, voice actors do take any job, which is why you hear the same 5 to 6 fucking voice actors in every project. Again, I kind of brought it up in the Silent Hill 2 review, but I mean, I don't mean any disrespect by it, or people who want to get their foot in the door and, you know, get paid for what they love, but... At the same time, you know, like, if I have to listen to fucking Troy Baker or fucking Christina V in every single fucking anime video game this side of the fucking planet, just... I would much rather take the hire people you find off the street approach that you had with games like Resident Evil or Silent Hill. Because at least that way, you get distinctive voices, no matter how droll Harry Mason might be, or how batshit insane Dahlia Gillespie is. But anyway, Ariel learns an important lesson. Don't be fucking stupid. I'm not really sure how to think about Ariel's character here, like, I mean... Wanting to see other worlds and wanting to strike out for your independence is relatable on a teenager kind of level, but like at the same time... well, then again, I haven't really seen the movie, so I don't really remember. I'm pretty... from what I remember from Kingdom Hearts 1's cutscenes, I'm pretty sure the King Triton was, like, lamenting on whether or not he was being hard on her, but like, I mean, at the same time, though, you're a teenager, you're fucking naive about the world, dude. Like, get a bit of perspective in you before you start venturing out on your own. Otherwise, well, in the real world, well, let's just say you don't want to end up like, well, certain people that I know. I'll say that much. Anyway, that's enough angst. I'll rather lose the memories of those people, to be perfectly honest, but... Yes, we're all gonna have that little speech someday of like, oh, do you only have to go now? If only we had more time. But no, despite the fact that Sora has more chemistry with the Disney princesses than... well, he does with Kairi, yeah. Anyway, she'll correct the mistake, well, until 1 year later when Kingdom Hearts 2 begins, and then she repeats that mistake, and... well, then she eventually gets to marry Spider-Man, which isn't exactly a bad thing until you realize that his life is nothing but a spiral of shame and misery. Also, that comparison is kind of fitting, because Ariel is a redhead like Mary Jane Watson, which, well, has some unspoken implications, because considering the fact that she was so willing to sell her soul to Ursula, she would also more than likely be wanting to sell her soul to the devil in exchange for Aunt May's life. My god, the Spider-Man comparisons are endless with this. Well, anyway, after a brief stop to get the key to rewards, which we also got during this level, and I forgot to mention in my many rambling messes, whatever. We will now finally go on to the next path. And yes, it seems Riku is nowhere to be found. Excuse me. I'm about to have some delicious meals shortly after this. Very brisk cutscene, especially... well, again, a bit of a nice bit of reprieve considering that, things are about to get a little bit heavier. Well, more heavier than they already are, because tensions run high in this point of the game. I suppose that's the one thing I actually can say about Chain of Memories' plot compared to a lot of the other games in the Kingdom Hearts series, is that it really does a good job in building up and escalating, whereas I feel some Kingdom Hearts games kind of have this point where, and again, this is mostly by proxy of the Disney ones, where things start to get intense, but then they kind of, like, peter out a little bit and things go back to calm again, only to pick up at weird, dramatic points in the story. Not all of it really works as well, but... I guess it's more of a case-by-case basis. The point being is that Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, I guess by nature of the fact that it is set in one isolated little building, does have the chance to kind of escalate little by little until, you know, you get to the climax and things are sick. But yeah, considering Vexen's whiny personality right here, not getting along with the very teasing lock scene and Axel just sitting back and enjoying the show, yeah, I can see only good things in his future, especially with Marluxia being very evil and plotting. Yeah, a nice way of disguising the fact that they don't have an animation for him taking off his hood. One of the few things I think Chain of Memories for the PS2 kind of fixed up, but I don't know. There is something about the sprite work here that I just can't help but love, as I mentioned previously. It's good, dude. I'm not really sure how the I'm not entirely sure how the ranking in the organization works. Like, Vexen does give all this whole sort of power to, like, oh, I am number 4, I am your superior! You know, with those sorts of speeches, but, like, considering usefulness, I get the impression that, well, again, and this is also due to the fact that, you know, certain plot points later kind of escalate things, but I kind of got the impression that it was Xigbar and Syx, which was Zenmus's right-hand men, and it kind of went in terms of whatever organization member was there for their specific field. Like, for example, Axel is there to be, well, let's just say the assassin slash mafia little hitman, so to speak. You know, Roxas, well, I mean, we'll get to his role in a 3-5 out over 2 days, as is, you know, Shion's role, being a similar factor in having a Keyblade and taking out Heartless, you know. And, you know, Vexen being a scientist, so obviously that does kind of give him a bit of credence for his importance in the series. And everybody else, though, well, everybody else seems to just kind of come and go. I mean, I guess you could probably argue that Zoldan and Lexius were there as heavies. But then again, that kind of doesn't really explain people like, you know, Luxine, Marluxia, Demix, and Luxord. I'm guessing they might explain exactly what their function was in, you know, future games in the series, but I don't know. Their appearance at this point in time just seems kind of random in terms of ranking. Then again, considering how the whole 13 Seekers of Darkness, 7 Keyblade Wielders of Light, it feels kind of haphazard anyway. But that is something that I'll probably say for whenever I get around to talking about Kingdom Hearts 3, so... By the way, this scene is a lot creepier in the PS2 remake, because... Well, maybe this is by proxy of me having a very, very vile mind that I repress with alcohol, but... Well, let's just say that Choke Me Daddy Marluxia comes to mind whenever I see Marluxia acting with someone who looks very subservient. And that is a very terrible thing to think, so, I shall leave and cut myself so I can drain the sin from my body like that guy from Silent Hill Homecoming. Or, the dude from, Doom the Movie, who cut himself for no adequately explained reason because hell doesn't exist in that film. This is actually one of the more... like, again... You get, like, I mean, despite the fact that you don't see it, in Sora's... excuse me, like, with Sora's words alone, you can still see it, like, exactly the sort of effect that Naminé had, despite the fact that, you know, even Jiminy Jillikas are pointing out that this is the first time Sora's mentioned him, but he's talking about it like he's known it for all his life, and that's... Well, I mean, you can play some really interesting Metal Gear Solid 2 style, like, brain manipulation with that sort of stuff, and... I don't know, I'd really like to see another game done in this sort of style that really does explore that. But I suppose I'll save that explanation for a little bit later. And, God, I'm so sorry about this. Yeah, this is the 100 Acre Woods, the Winnie the Pooh level, which baffles me for its inclusion, and this is one that I'm going to be actively skipping over. What you're basically going to be missing in this is basically mini-games, which are featured in every... if not every, if most Kingdom Hearts games, or at the very least the numbered titles. And basically it involves Sora playing games with Winnie the Pooh while he tries to remember his, you know, forest animal buddies. The main reason why I'm cutting this out is mainly because of the fact that it doesn't really have a lot of relevance to the overall plot, and... Well, I mean, its inclusion in the Kingdom Hearts series to begin with is always kind of baffling to me, because I don't really know what they're trying to invoke here, because, I mean... You don't fight Heartless, you don't have any sort of organization plot going on here, and likewise there isn't really any sort of plot beyond Sora basically taking Christopher Robin's spot in terms of Winnie the Pooh's antics, so... I really don't know what it's trying to invoke here. I guess maybe a sense of, like, childlike wonder in the sense that this is uncorrupted innocence, and I guess perhaps a desire to return to early childhood when, you know, life was a new adventure and possibilities were still unknown. But at the same time, though, they don't really do anything very esoteric with this concept, and I guess while you could appreciate it for being wholesome, given the nature of Kingdom Hearts, taking, you know, very stock-standard adventure-esque sort of tropes and putting a bit of an ethereal spin on them, I don't know, I kind of would have liked something a little bit more... I guess maybe something a little bit more abstract, if that makes any sense. But I suppose regardless as such, it puts this world in a position where I don't really find a lot of value in it. So again, forgive me for skipping it, but, you know, not really much to do here. Then I suppose it's also the fact that I don't really have any sort of nostalgia for Winnie the Pooh. I mean, I'm trying to remember my early childhood, actually. Did I have any sort of mascots like this? I don't really remember. Whether that's Castle Oblivion working its magic, or if it's just my memory fading away from me, I don't really know. That's, because, like, I mean, when I think back to early childhood, like, I mean, my mind goes back to, well, Doctor Who, Star Wars. Like, I mean, those were the general sort of figures that I kind of enjoyed. Well, more so Doctor Who than Star Wars, because I used to watch the show religiously back when the classic series was rerunning, but, yeah, that was my shit, man. But anyway, Sora and Winnifred Feces must part ways. And they will never forget each other, because Winnie the Pooh continues to make an appearance even into Kingdom Hearts 3, which kind of baffles me. And I think they might finally be starting to do something where Sora feels like his connection to Winnie the Pooh and these characters is fading, which... is that a sign of him growing up? Is it a sign of maybe the darkness inside him starting to well up? I'm not entirely sure. I don't think anything will ever come of it, or if it does, it'll probably just be like a small subplot, kind of like the Cloud vs. Sephiroth thing that they haven't bothered to resolve as of yet. I'm not entirely sure. But in any case, dudes and dudettes, we are out of time for this week, so I'm Solidus-Skully, keep it new metal, and next time on Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories, well, enjoy this brief reprieve, because things are about to get darker. Catch you later.